Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover, and we have a special show this evening on Memorial Day. We are going to be speaking tonight to some veterans who have continued to serve our community and our country after leaving uniform, and we're also going to be talking to an organization, TAPS, who helps family members of loved ones that we've lost while serving in the military. So my first guest tonight, I'm thrilled to have with us, Tanya James. She is
Hi.
a veteran of the Marine Corps. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Now, tell us a little bit about your service. How long did you serve in the Marines?
I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years. I retired in December 2015, and here in Virginia from Quantico, and decided I love Virginia so much I wanted to make it my home. So I've been here in Virginia since 2011, and I retired in 2015 after 20 years.
That's great. Now tell us a little bit about your decision before going into the military. Tell us a little bit about that journey which led you to the Marine Corps.
Well, it's a very interesting story. I was in college. I came home for Christmas break, and while I was home, my father passed away unexpectedly. And that was a really tough time for me. And at that same time, one of my friends from high school was also home from boot camp and had just graduated. He showed up to my house. He had on his dress blues. I was just totally blown away. He told me all the cool things he was about to do, and told me about the opportunity to go to college while on active duty. So I went, talked to a recruiter, and I went back to school, finished out that semester, and that summer I was in boot camp.
That's incredible. That's a great.
It is pretty incredible.
And 20 years.
20 years, did the first 4 years. I was like, I really like being a Marine. I've always felt a deep sense of love for my country. So absolutely love everything that I was doing in the Marine Corps, and decided that I would do another 4 years, and then it turned out to be another 4, then another 4. And next thing I knew, I was about to retire.
That's incredible. I mean, you've spent 20 years serving your country.
Right.
And once you left the military, I know that you continue to serve your community. Tell us a little bit about how important service is to you, and how important that service was to you to make sure you continued after leaving.
Well, actually what I thought I was going to do after retirement was spend some time just hanging out, playing some golf, going to yoga, taking my daughter to school and picking her up every afternoon. But at the same time as I retired, the 2016 elections happened, and I felt another strong calling to serve after that, and wanted to especially make sure that my friends that were still in uniform, that could not speak for themselves, had a voice and knew that there were veterans out here fighting for their interests. So just kind of stumbled into an organization called New Virginia Majority, which focuses on voter education, restoration of rights, voter registration. So I did that for a little bit, was able to learn about community organizing, and I decided I really loved what I was doing. It was the same sense of purpose and job satisfaction as I experienced on active duty. And just later on, in 2017, decided I wanted to be more partisan, so I went to work on the Virginia coordinated 2017 for the election of Governor Ralph Northam. Had a great time, worked in Prince William County there, and we were able to make sure we secured the top 3 at the top of the ticket, as well as, you know, flip some seats that needed to be changed over as far as leadership in Prince William. in Loudoun County. So
that's great. And I know when we met for the first time,
Yeah.
it was actually in Manassas.
it was.
And
it was.
you were registering people to
Right.
vote.
I was registering voters at, I believe it was the July 4th celebration. I was out registering voters, and I guess the rest is history.
That's right, that's right. And I know after you worked on the coordinated campaign, you also played a very important role in the re-election of Senator Tim Kaine. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Absolutely. So right after that, rolled right into the Virginia 2018 coordinated for the re-elect of Senator Tim Kaine, as well as to try to flip as many congressional seats as we possibly could. That was a huge priority for the senator at the time. And I was fortunate enough to be responsible for 12 counties and 4 independent cities, just right outside of Nova, and was able to have an amazing group of organizers, and they were able to help continue to build on the work that we did in 2017 with those activists and grassroots organizers and local Dems committees here in the area.
That's great. Now talk a little bit about the organizing piece of what you do. I know you're so passionate about organizing. You're fantastic at it.
Right.
Talk about the importance of organizing right now, and maybe some of the skills you learned in the Marine Corps, how those help you be a good organizer.
Well, you're right. It definitely helps you to learn to deal with different personalities and to show up with a sense of wanting to help and wanting to make sure that everyone's voices are heard. So with organizing, for me, it's the biggest part is the relationship building piece with wherever you go, because you have to remember that when you are sent somewhere to organize, that you are asking people to not only trust you, but to also, you want to make sure that you are able to build a community that will last long after you have moved on. So just to empower people to want to organize and take responsibility for their area is a huge, it's a huge thing, and it's very important. And it's very important to make sure that everyone, no matter where they're at, whether it's rural, whether it's suburban or urban, that everyone has an opportunity that their voices are heard, their concerns. As you say, what keeps them up at night.
Right.
Definitely want to make sure that everyone understands that, you know, the things that are important to you should also be important to whoever is representing you. Because the seat doesn't belong to whatever politician, it belongs to the people that they're representing.
Very well said, very well said. I know our area has one of the largest veteran populations in the country.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure when you're connecting with people in each of the communities, I'm sure being able to connect with veterans is a really important thing, and ensuring that they know how to be involved and how to organize and vote, obviously.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about your ability to ensure that veterans continue to stay involved?
Well, that's definitely a huge part of my core belief, that veterans, you're sent off to these countries to help people and protect their way of life, and in some cases ensure that they're able to vote while you're there. So it's very important that when veterans come home and they start to build a community wherever they decide to get out and live, that they do get involved in the local politics, and make sure that they have a seat at the table, because they have a different set of a different set of things that keeps them up at night, and people want to hear that. It's not just enough to say thank you for your service. It's what can I do for you? How can I help you? How can I help you be a part of our community?
That's fantastic. Now talk a little bit about what you're doing now. You are a campaign manager.
I am.
For a race out west. Tell us a little bit about that race.
I'm currently managing Ronnie Ross for State Senate and Senate District 27. It covers parts of Loudoun, Clark, Frederick, Winchester City, Fauquier, parts of Culpeper, and Stafford counties. It's an amazing district.
Beautiful part of the
beautiful.
state,
It's beautiful.
yeah.
I think the best part is just driving around the district. But the district is increasingly over time getting a little bit more, progressive because it's growing, and people are starting to want to get involved and understand that, hey, there's Democrats that live on my street, and also Ronnie is an amazing candidate. He's a teacher. He's lived it in Fauquier for the past 10 years. Straight out of college, moved here to teach. He teaches high school English. So I do get a little paranoid when he goes to read my press releases. But he's an amazing, amazing candidate.
That's great.
He wants to ensure that, education is at the forefront of what we do here in Virginia, and make sure that teachers are paid what they should be paid, and that we are spending enough on our students, as well as, just protecting our environment, making sure that, the water and air that we breathe will be better quality or the same quality for our kids.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'm really excited about that, really excited about the area
Good.
just getting engaged, and they're getting mobilized and excited for this year.
Talk a little bit about the importance of Democrats in particular organizing in rural communities, because I think we have seen this state turn in so many different directions, especially in our rural communities. And we, as you said, people are organized, they're energized. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of being out there?
It's important, one, because so people know that you're there. Don't be afraid to be a Democrat. Be a rural Democrat. Be proud. Put your sign out. Because you never know, your neighbor down the street drives by your sign. You've lived there for 20 years, and yet your neighbor never knew that you were a Democrat until you put out a sign, and then you have a conversation, and just talk to each other about values, because Democratic values are winning values.
Right.
And just making sure that we stay engaged, we get mobilized, we stick together, because voters become volunteers, that become activists, that become candidates, amazing candidates.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you too for the service you've provided to our community and our state.
Thank you.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. Already posted it.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. All of the ones get on. It's very sad when all that I could do was remember you. You know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I mean,
Right?
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you,
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover, and I'm honored to have with me this evening Dan Lagana. Dan is a veteran, former Army.
Yes.
And now is very involved in our community. Dan, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now tell me how long you served in the Army.
So I was in the Army for 6 years. I enlisted when I was 18 years old. It was 2002. I had to wait 6 months because there was, after September 11th, there was a long line of people to join. And so I finally reported in 2003, and I spent 6 years on, a little bit less than 6 years on active duty. I did 2 tours in Iraq, got out in 2009, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Well, that's great. Now, when you were getting out of the Army, how important was it to you to continue your service to your community, your country, your state?
You know, it's interesting. When I first got out, I was still, motivated. I wasn't quite sure where to direct those motivations or those energies, and so I was taking classes at the time in community college, and I was working odd jobs, and it wasn't until I was at Columbia University, and we were working specifically on changes to the GI Bill, which you probably recall from back in the day. And it was the post 9/11 GI Bill, and it was 2010, and there was the huge the Congress had totally changed sides, and there were going to be a lot of adjustments made to that GI Bill. And we felt very lucky being at a great school like Columbia to have it paid for by the post 9/11. But we realized with a lot of these changes that families, veterans that had families that were quite literally planning out their credit hours would be impacted. So we marshaled, a group of students and I marshaled an effort to, it's sort of a grandfather element to the bill. And we were successful at the end of the day. And that sort of was the switch. And after that, I realized that the same forces that motivated me to join the military, and that I felt that my parents had instilled in me, I felt obligated to carry those on here and back home. And that's really the genesis of my involvement in the community, if you will.
That's incredible. So when you left Columbia and you had this big success, and it was a big success for the GI Bill, what did you do next? Well,
it wasn't immediate, but I dipped my toes, if you will, in the water in local politics. The experience I had on the GI Bill, and again, was transformative politically. And it's not enough just to read the news and to sort of, you really, I believe, as a citizen, I feel a sense of duty to want to help shape my community. And so I frankly just started picking up a clipboard and knocking doors for Barack Obama in 2012. And that carried on into the Virginia gubernatorial race. I took a job working in Arkansas for Mark Pryor, and I worked in the southwest part of the state, in rural southwest Arkansas. And I came back here. I inserted myself in a local politics, started managing races, became intimately familiar with the political landscape in Fairfax County, and the rest is history there.
That's great. And now you are chair of the Fairfax County Democratic Party. Can you talk a little bit about the skills that you learned in the military and how you're able to apply them to this position that you have now?
Right. This may be an inappropriate metaphor, but I'll use it anyway. No plan survives contact, right? And so you've got to plan and plan and plan, and then reality happens,
Right.
and you have to adjust accordingly. I would say, what's very similar about politics and the military is that they're both, and probably what attracted me, or what continues to attract me, is that they're very similar people, whether or not they realize that, and of course, but you're mission driven, right? You're mission driven, you're mission focused. And I felt one of the things that was, that I felt very strongly about, or the force that I felt, was that there was a larger purpose or an objective that I was working towards in the military. That's very true. Maybe I wasn't apparent to me at the time because I was 20, right? But you like being part of something larger than yourself.
Right.
And I very much like that about Fairfax County. We're working to something, we have an aim, a mission to elect Democrats to help shape our community. And I'm working for something that's much larger than Dan Lagana or much larger than anything else. And I enjoy that, In 10 years from now, no one's going to know really that I was FCDC chair or whatever, right?
I don't know.
Well, maybe, you never know. But I guess the point is that you have this thing that's much bigger than you, and you're part of it, and that's something that you can look back on with pride.
Absolutely. And you've done a really great job of championing veterans to be involved in the community. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of veterans being involved in the community and local politics, and what that brings to the table?
Sure. You can, in case your viewers may not be familiar, the military is an institution in the United States that routinely polls at the highest levels across the population. I do feel, though, that because we have an all-volunteer military, there is and we don't need as many people to serve as we did maybe 40 years ago, where you had a draft. The importance of veterans remaining connected in their communities is important socially for both the country and for the military. It keeps us woven together, if you will. We're a citizen army and a citizen military. And when you go into the military, I'll never forget this acronym that I learned. It was leadership. It's everywhere in the Army. It's a little, at first you're like, oh God, this acronym, right? But it's loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And those are values to live by, and those are values that you can live in your community by working, and people can see that and they can connect with you. And you're keeping this bond between this civil military bond, which I think is very important for the fabric of our country. And these leadership skills, these intangible skills that you learn in the military, I mean, what a loss it would be if your community didn't get to benefit from those,
Right, absolutely. And two, you're in an incredible position to champion issues that ensure that our country keeps our promises to the men and women who have served. And you definitely show that through your work with the GI Bill as well.
Thank you. Absolutely. I mean, we being in the military is something that it was a privilege and an honor for me. And it's something that I want other people in our country to want to aspire to do. And so, yes, to your point.
That's great. That's great. Now, talk a little bit about your role now. And I know we have a lot of important races. FCDC is doing so much to support candidates all over the county. Can you talk a little bit about what's on the horizon? What are the big events coming up for the organization?
Sure. Just to, we have probably the most complicated definitely the most complicated electoral map, if you will, in Virginia. I'm sorry to some of the other localities. One of the most in the country, for sure. What we have coming up, twofold. We've got local endorsements on our committee, and that's for our members, and that they vote to endorse school board members. The school board is nonpartisan, so both parties in the county endorse candidates and put them on their sample ballot that they hand out on election day. The big thing is the primary on June 11th, excuse me, and that is for state senate, House of Delegates, but really for us, the big kahuna, if you will, are the Board of Supervisors, because that's really what we exist to support, is the county committee. So the Board of Supervisors are the town council, if you will, the city council for Fairfax County. These folks have districts that are a little bit smaller in some cases than a state senate district. They wield enormous amounts of power for your viewers. You know, everything from health and human services, if you will, to the police, to the fire department, to allocating the school's budget, they're responsible for. You know, everything that the Board of Supervisors does impacts your life. So we have a primary for chairman of the board. It's the first primary, I believe, since 1961.
Wow.
That I may be wrong about that, or 62. And Democratic primary. And we have competitive primaries, if off the top of my head, I believe 5 magisterial districts, 5 or 4 magisterial districts. And so this is really a transformative year for Fairfax County. And so there's a lot on the ticket, and it's up to your viewers to go find out more at fairfaxdemocrats.org.
Absolutely,
Right.
and I think it speaks to the energy right now in our country. We have so many candidates running, and good candidates running for office. And can you talk a little bit about what you've seen as far as in Fairfax County, the amount of people stepping up to raise their hand and saying, I want to be on the ballot?
Oh, I mean, it's incredible. You know, we talk about this commitment to service, and you have everyone. First of all, just the people running, the amount of people running is incredible. I can't tell you the amount of emails I've gotten and meetings I've had with people who are interested in running, and give them a very frank assessment of what it takes to run for office, but just the interest itself is incredible. For chairman of the Board of Supervisors, we've got 4 candidates running. We have, in the magisterial district where this show is being taped in Providence, we've got 5 candidates running. You've got an incredibly diverse group of candidates. It's not just white men, right? We have quite frankly every demographic in Fairfax County, or large group, if you will, stepping up to run. I mean, it is incredible, and the people that they're bringing into the process because of this interest, that's really the net benefit, I think, for us.
That is. And
Right.
the committee has grown so much, just even over the last 2 years.
It has.
Can you talk a little bit about that, especially for our viewers, those that really want to get involved in the committee and the great work that you're doing right now?
So we've grown. We've got about 2,500 members right now, and we are, for your viewers to be involved, we are broken down by magisterial district. So there's 9 different districts within Fairfax County. And wherever they live, they will be assigned to one of those districts. Okay. FairfaxDemocrats.org is where they can find out more about joining. We'd love to have them.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your service to our country, and thank you for what you do every day.
Great.
You are truly making a difference in our community, so I'm grateful to you.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Please stay with us. We'll be back after a short break.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things.
2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks.
Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator.
My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
I know.
150 over 90. 180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it, or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover, and I'm honored to have with me tonight Chantel Dooley from TAPS organization. Chantel, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now tell us a little bit about TAPS, the organization. You all do so many wonderful things for families who have lost loved ones serving in the military. Can you talk a little bit about your mission?
Absolutely. So TAPS is the national nonprofit organization that provides comfort, care, and resources to all those that are grieving the death of a loved one whose life included selfless service to our country. The beautiful thing about TAPS is it does not matter if it's been 3 minutes, 3 years, or 30 years since our loved ones have worn the uniform. If at any point they have ever raised their right hand and pledged to defend the freedom of our country, we honor that pledge by caring for all those they loved and left behind.
That's fantastic. It is an incredible mission that you have, and I know the organization has served so many families over the years. I guess it started in 1994, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
And it continues to have such an incredible impact on families all across our country. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved originally with TAPS.
Yes, so in 2016, I was teaching high school biology in Phoenix, Arizona, and engaged to be married to the love of my life, Special Agent Alex Stanton of the United States Air Force. And we were on our way to meet our wedding DJ to plan out the music for our wedding day. And he was killed in a motorcycle accident. And being that his life included selfless service to our country, I was very grateful to be welcomed into the TAPS family. What's beautiful is he was actually laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery, and our wedding day was May 27th. So over Memorial Day weekend, I flew out to Arlington National Cemetery to be with him on what was supposed to be our wedding day. And I was sitting at his grave and reading my wedding vows that I had already written. And it was very emotional, as anyone can imagine. And there were plenty of well-wishers in Section 60 that wanted to offer comfort and support. But what was beautiful is all the people that were walking around in these red TAPS t-shirts. And they didn't say a word. They just came by and put their hand on my shoulder and squeezed. And the amazing thing that did for me was allow me that sense of peace to know that they couldn't fix it. And they were also letting me know that they were there. So what's incredible is that's how I became part of the TAPS family. And soon after that, the outreach started with the members of our survivor care team, who are peer professionals that have been trained in how to talk to somebody who is going through a traumatic experience, going through grief, and just let them know that they have a nationwide network of support. And it was through that nationwide network of support and that reassurance and reach out by my survivor care team member that I was connected with all the other resources and services that TAPS offers survivors.
That's
so
incredible.
I became part of the TAPS family, became more involved, and the next thing I knew, my journey landed me in a position working with TAPS where I'm honored and privileged to carry out the legacy of Alex's service to our country in my own way, through my own work.
Well, thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I know the work that you all do just has such an incredible impact on people's lives, and thank you for doing what you do every single day. Can you talk a little bit about the programs at TAPS? You all do so many wonderful things for children who have lost a loved one. Can you talk a little bit about the programs you have that focus primarily on children?
Absolutely. So we offer programs and services across generations. So we offer our services to anybody, whether they're, haven't even been born yet, all the way up to grandparents that have loved and lost their loved one. And the amazing thing about that is how we bring people together and how we bring all survivors together. There's incredible power in the comfort of learning from somebody else who is maybe a little farther along in their grief journey than you are and has been through a similar experience. And that gives survivors hope. That gives people like me hope to know that there is a light. And taking a step forward through your grief journey does not mean that you ever forget. It's about finding a place of peace with the love and the legacy that will always continue to live on. For our programs, one of our very special programs we have over this Memorial Day weekend is our National Military Survivor Seminar and Good Grief Camp. And at this program, it's going to be held over Memorial Day weekend.
Sure.
And we have over 2,000 survivors that are going to be joining us in order to celebrate the life and legacy of their fallen loved one. What's incredible about that is over 500 of those survivors are children under the age of 18. Because they're so young, we have a very special program for them called the Good Grief Camp. So when they come, they are actually paired up one-to-one with a military mentor. Now, a military mentor is somebody who is a volunteer. They are presently serving or have previously served in our military, and their sole job that entire weekend is just to be there for that child and make sure that they know that the service that their loved one gave to our country will never be forgotten. And it's a beautiful relationship that happens between a military mentor and their mentee. The healing that happens, not only for the child to know that the military still cares for them and still values the service of their loved one, but also the healing power on our military mentors. For them to be able to honor the legacy of their fallen brothers and sisters by caring for the children that they left behind.
That is beautiful, absolutely. And I have heard some incredible stories that in many cases these military mentors will fly across the country for a graduation. And can you talk about the depth of these relationships that really form and how incredibly special they are?
Yes, so what's beautiful about the connection between a military mentor and their mentee is it's truly a connection unlike any other connection. So the children, a lot of times, most parents don't know how to talk to their child about grief, which is understandable because the parents are grieving too. Whereas instead, we place a military mentor in that role. And the child knows that that military mentor is solely there just to be their friend and to listen to them. We have incredible stories and testimonials from our military mentors on the power between their connection with their mentee. And many of our military mentors regularly tell us that they have shared things about their own loss and their own grief that they've never shared with anybody before. Countless of our military mentors who lost brothers and sisters, whether it be in combat or a death by suicide or to illness, and they've never really processed through that grief until they serve in the companion of a grieving child. So you have a child looking at you and sharing the story of their fallen loved one, and then all of a sudden it creates that safe space for the mentor and the child to be able to bond and connect over their shared grief.
And what a special relationship for both the mentor and the child.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. One of the things too I love about TAPS is you all are fierce advocates for families, and you've worked really hard to ensure that you're able to help families navigate sometimes a very complicated road in connecting to the benefits that they've not only deserve, but that they've earned. Can you talk a little bit about the advocacy work that TAPS does on behalf of families?
Absolutely. So for our families, because when a military mentor passes, Maybe they have children that are at the age of 7. And while the family is not thinking about college or the post-secondary education because that child is 7, they're not ready to handle all that information.
Right.
So what we do is we companion that family all through their grief journey. So when they're ready, they know that TAPS is there for them to provide them with that type of guidance and support and mentorship into navigating all those different benefits that they are eligible for. What's beautiful about our entire casework assistance team and education benefits is that they take the time to talk to our survivors and figure out what their educational goals are. And we are able to help them to set up a plan so that they are successful in their education and they can take advantage of the benefits that they are eligible for because they are a military survivor.
That's incredible. One of my first interactions with TAPS was when I worked on a bill while serving on the Hill. And I was a chief of staff for Congressman Chet Edwards, who was the author of the John David Fry Scholarship Bill. And that scholarship gives every child who's lost a mother or father in combat since 9/11 the opportunity to go to college. And TAPS played a huge role in making sure that education benefits were protected. And I know they continue to be advocates to make sure they're expanded in ways that really serve the families that need them.
Absolutely, such an important issue. The other amazing thing is with the Fry Scholarship, we also have other benefits that our families are eligible for. There are 45 out of the 50 states in the United States that offer free in-state tuition to military survivors. So what is amazing is we are able to connect those families based off of where they live, where they want to go to school, and what their educational goals are to set it up so that they can make sure that they are using all the benefits that they're eligible for and using them in the proper sequential order so that they have little to no out-of-pocket cost.
That's wonderful. It is a complicated process at times to navigate, and to be able to have TAPS as a resource to not only help families plan, but also ensure that they're able to actually use those benefits is incredibly important. Now, I know you all do a big gala each year, and I think it just passed here recently. Can you talk about the importance of sharing that with the families, but also ensuring that the community is heavily involved in understanding the mission of TAPS?
Yes, so we have incredible relationships with some amazing donors that believe in the mission and support TAPS in all that we do. This was my first gala this past year, and my favorite part of the gala was right after the opening ceremony, and everybody stands up to offer their round of applause and support, and to see all the support and all the people cheering us to keep on our mission.
So powerful, so powerful. We are going to take a short break, but please stay with us. We are going to talk more to Chantel about the important work TAPS does every single day for families who have lost a loved one in service to our country.
Come on, man.
Just do it, quick. No one's watching. You have to if you want to hang with us.
The other one, too?
Good job. Do the right thing. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Lindsey Davis Stover, and we have been discussing TAPS, with Chantel Dooley. And thank you again for being with us tonight and discussing the important mission you work on every single day. And to pick up the conversation where we left off before break, talk to us a little bit about how families are able to get connected to TAPS, families that really need the care and support.
Absolutely. So the biggest way that we are connected with families is a direct connection between the casualty affairs officer right at the time of death. So in the military, when somebody who's in a duty status passes, they are assigned a casualty assistance officer. And those are the officers that have the task of making the knock on the door and doing the official notification. What's beautiful about that is once the family is notified, then the casualty affairs officers are able to connect those families immediately with TAPS. And because we offer a 24/7 National Military Survivor Helpline, they can connect families with TAPS 24 hours a day. Right when the families are connected with us, the first thing we do is we immediately send them a comfort kit. And this kit is a beautiful box that is full of resources and supportive materials for the families. And the other reason we do that is for families to be able to have something tangible, also so that they know who we are and that we are here for them. Once we send out that comfort kit, then immediate outreach begins with our survivor care team. Now, our survivor care team are survivors themselves, and they have been trained in how to do needs assessments and really have conversations with survivors in order to gain as much insight into what it is that they are needing. This is such a very difficult and troubling time, and a lot of times survivors don't know what they need, and that's okay. What is amazing about the work that we do is we do it all very thoughtfully. Once our survivors come with us, the first thing that they need are feelings of safety and stabilization. And so we do that through outreach by our survivor care team, our 24/7 access to our National Military Survivor Helpline, also support with casework assistance. So sometimes families have urgent needs that they truly don't know how to handle in terms of laying their loved one to rest, ordering a headstone, making sure that they have all the right medals and ribbons, for their loved one to be laid to rest. And those are all services that we can offer for our survivors at no cost. Once the survivors are safe and stable, we then transition into a phase called hopeful reappraisal. And that means that our survivors are set up and equipped with positive coping skills. And what that means for us is making sure that all of our survivors are matched with a peer mentor. And a peer mentor is somebody who is at least 18 months post-loss in their grief journey, and they are ready and willing to companion another newly bereaved survivor. So for me, it was a fellow fiance who had also tragically lost her fiance in a car accident not long before I lost my Alex. And the connection between us was phenomenal. We were both from the same state, and we both had similar backgrounds, and sadly, we both had very similar tragic stories. The other thing that we make sure our survivors have is access to our other programs. We have a wonderful women's empowerment program where we're able to take our female survivors and really put them in a safe space surrounded by other survivors so that they can work on some of those things that we tend to avoid as we do in grief and trauma. They're on the shelf, they're there, but we're not quite dealing with it. And what the empowerment program does is it takes our survivors to a beautiful space in nature so that they can work on unpacking some of those skills and processing through that grief work together in a very supportive environment, but also learning very valuable tools and skills that they can take back with them when they return home. Once our survivors are at a healthy point in their grief journey, the other phase of our program is positive integration, and that is moving forward through your grief while still honoring the life and legacy of your loved one, but at a healthy place where you're ready to celebrate the life and service. And we have an incredible sports and entertainment program that works to create these meaningful partnerships and engagements with professional sports teams. And they pair our survivors up, and they're able to create new memories, doing something together as a family, and a shared experience that they had with their fallen loved one. So
that is incredible. I mean, I think the key, and what you have so eloquently touched on, is the importance of making that connection.
Absolutely.
And it happens so quickly to ensure that folks really feel that support. And I think whether you're just have lost a loved one, or to your point where you can celebrate the life and the legacy, you all do an incredible job of providing that support and those relationships to ensure that people can have someone to lean on. And I think that's what is so beautiful about what you do every single day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I know this is a weekend coming up. Memorial Day weekend is one of the weekends for TAPS that you are able to bring everybody together. You said earlier that you were bringing quite a few families in from across the country. Can you talk more about what people will be doing this weekend, what services you have available this weekend, what you're highlighting, and how you're really bringing people together?
Absolutely. So one of the other ways that we provide care to our survivors is making sure that they know that they are not alone.
Right.
And our National Military Survivor Seminar and Good Grief Camp has been referred to as a family reunion by many survivors.
That's great.
The buzz has already started on social media that people, our survivors are commenting that they can't wait to come and connect with their TAPS family.
Now, let me ask you, does it happen every Memorial Day?
Yes.
Perfect.
So every Memorial Day, right here in Crystal City,
okay,
in Arlington, and it's a beautiful weekend. Our survivors come to us on Thursday, and what's amazing is we have survivors of all different types of loss and all different relationships to their fallen loved one. Unfortunately, what we saw this past year in 2018 is that the number of newly bereaved survivors coming to TAPS for comfort and care has only gone up. 32% of our survivors are surviving a loss by suicide.
32%.
32%.
32%.
Yes. And 26% of our survivors are surviving a loss due to illness. What we do is we take a look at those numbers and those demographics of our survivors, and we very carefully structure our program over our Memorial Day seminar to make sure that we are providing resources to all different types of loss. So somebody who is surviving a loss by suicide has very different needs than somebody who is grieving the death of their loved one due to an illness.
Right. And when you say illness, is it typically a service-related illness that many are?
Unfortunately, the trend that we're seeing is that we are seeing a high number of deaths as a result of illness due to incredibly rare and incredibly aggressive cancers. And unfortunately, a lot of those deaths, when they happened, those military members had also served in overseas bases.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of information out there about burn pits and depleted uranium and how those toxins impact the health and overall well-being of a person. So we are making sure that we are providing services specifically for our survivors who are grieving the death of their loved one due to an incredibly rare and incredibly aggressive cancer. For this reason, we offer workshops for our adults to attend while their children are with their military mentors at our Good Grief Camp. And these workshops offer coping skills for our survivors. They offer information for our survivors. And these workshops are facilitated by leading experts in grief, trauma, and bereavement. So the survivors have the opportunity to learn from those experts in the field and gain that valuable insight into what's coming next or how to help process through the trauma and the grief that they suffer while they're at home. Another amazing thing is because of the extreme numbers that we're seeing due to incredibly rare and incredibly aggressive cancers, we are also hosting a panel on specifically addressing toxic exposure illnesses in the military. So on this panel, we're going to talk about it and figure out what is it that we mean when we say toxic exposure illnesses, what is being done about it, what support is available out there for those that may be impacted by that.
That's such an important message to get out, and I'm still stunned to hear the percentage on suicide. And I know here recently, while it's not enough, I think our country is working to ensure that Congress just passed a bill to help with veteran suicide, because we're seeing an uptick in that as well. And it's such an important issue, and you said it so eloquently. People grieve in different ways, and because you're able to customize that care, I'm sure is incredibly meaningful and powerful for these families.
It is. So our survivors of a loss by suicide are very, very special, as all of our survivors.
Right.
Now we know that one of the things that our survivors of a loss by suicide need is that immediate safety and stabilization. And for a lot of our survivors, that is support in how they share their story of their loss by suicide, so that the story focuses on the life and service rather than how they died.
Right.
And what's beautiful about our suicide pre- and postvention team that we have with TAPS is that they actually work with survivors to help them craft their story and share it in a positive way that not only sets them up for a healthy grief journey, but also sets up the rest of their family members for a healthy grief journey, and specifically also their children.
That's great. Now, the viewers that are watching tonight, can you tell them if they want to get involved, what are ways in which they can get involved with TAPS?
Yes, we always love support. And the best way to get involved is by visiting us on our website at taps.org. And there's a /volunteer, and it has all the information on how you can volunteer and get involved with TAPS. You can also follow us on social media, so Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for all of our upcoming programs and any way to get involved.
So there are definitely opportunities for the community to put their arms around this organization.
Always.
So thank you. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you.
What you do every single day is making such a difference in these families' lives, but it's making such a difference for our country. So thank you for your service.
It's an honor.
Thank you for joining us tonight as we honor those who've served.